episode of The Beard and the Sass. We're here to talk about something that...
everybody in Russellville is talking about.
Probably. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah, we're going to talk about weed today. So it's just Kristin and I for our first episode.
No weed. We're
not
us.
smoking weed while we're doing this. We haven't done, we're just going to talk about it. We're not going to do it, okay? So let's get down with the sit down.
Let's do it.
So recently, our city government voted to allow 420 RX to, they gave a special use permit to 420 RX to open a medical marijuana dispensary here in Russellville. And if you're wondering where that's going to be located, if you haven't been following that, it's on the south end of Highway 7 from here to Dardanelle in the old Vermeer building. So it'd be on, there's Car Mart, and on your way to Dardanelle before you get to the river, it'd be there on the right. And what we want to talk about really is, there was a lot of frustration because this is the second time they voted for that. And previously it was a 4-4 tie, and the mayor abstained from voting to just no vote. And so to keep from having a lawsuit continue, there'd already been one started, and spending a ton of money, they went ahead and voted again, and this time the mayor voted in the affirmative. Same vote, both sides. It was 4-4, and the mayor voted in the affirmative. But what we want to get at really today, Kristin and I want to kind of talk about, how did we get there in the first place? Why? So this is what I want to know, Kristin. We have, Russellville is very full of pharmacies. And then the state law basically says that we have to deal with these dispensaries just like we would have a pharmacy. Right. So does a pharmacy, so they had to get a special use permit in our city. Right. If you want to open a business, there are several different types of permits you have to get. Most of them are not all that complicated, not special.
Right. You don't have to go through the city council.
You go pay the bill and they give you the thing.
Right.
As long as you fit up to code or whatever. But if you're a pharmacy, apparently you have to get this in our town, a special use permit. Therefore, the medical marijuana dispensary has to as well. Right. Why? What's the reason?
You were part of the problem.
Oh, me?
Totally. It's your fault.
Awesome. It's my fault.
Cool. No, this did happen when you were on council, though, and it's something people should know about, because this is one of those things.
So I'm not part of the problem, or was I?
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
You're gonna tell us. I'm always gonna go with your part.
Yeah.
Okay. So medical marijuana was approved by voters in November 2016.
Yes.
Okay, so we're a long ways out from that.
Ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was an amendment. It's a constitutional amendment. It says that they have to be treated exactly the same as pharmacies. Yep. So in 2017, just a few months after that, our city council put up an ordinance to change how dispensaries get a permit. Okay. So basically, a pharmacy now in Russellville, pre-2017, pharmacy could apply for a business permit, go through the process, get the permit. They didn't have to go through the city council to get that permit.
Yes.
But because we put this special ordinance in place, knowing that this would be for dispensaries, and we totally knew that's what it was about. Yes. And so now that puts us here where we're at. And we have officials going, we don't want to deal with it. This isn't, our thing. But we created it. Yes. And now we're having to deal with it. And so you were on the council at that time. How did that come about?
So if I remember correctly, a lot of times cities want to be able to fairly control certain, say we were a wet county, and we wanted to have control over where liquor stores could be. Right. You don't want them certain feet between a church or a school or whatever.
Well, for example, El Paso, they've changed kind of the plan for that with tech. A partnership, and so now if you want to put certain businesses in that area, they're not allowed because of what the plan for that area is. So it's common.
Yes. And this, from city planning to being able to deal with potential issues, a while back there was a lot of drama in Clarksville because the adult store,
everybody's favorite store from the interstate,
right there, and there was no special. And when I remember, we had that discussion about what happened in Clarksville when we were discussing what to do with the dispensaries.
Right.
So, in my opinion, at the time, I felt like that probably wasn't the worst way we could handle.
Right.
Was we have them apply for a special use permit. They come before the council. They show us their plan. Everything is gravy. They get it.
Right.
So
what that kind of says though is that, you know, we're acting like this is this really difficult thing to deal with, but we've known for at least a year and a half, 2 years that this was coming.
Right.
That, because we set it up to be that way,
yes.
right? The city, I mean, not we, not me, but
right.
you.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that's kind of how we got here, and that's a big part of what I think the reason for this is to talk about how we've landed here where we're at. You know, and some of the other things that have gone on with this is that citizens have really really responded over this medical marijuana issue in a way that I don't think we've seen around here previously.
Yeah.
And that's part of what also kind of spawned up this, us going ahead and doing this, because the citizen engagement, I believe, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I believe more than the lawsuit impacted their opinion.
There's a lot of pressure from the citizens, and I that's one of the things I love about government. And when I was running for office, it was really sad to see that there wasn't as much, like for state office especially, you know, there was all this drama about the, you know, casino, which we'll get into
That's
later.
Next time, yeah.
But and because of that one specific issue, nobody really thought, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but most people didn't think to ask, well, what does this person think about medical marijuana?
Right.
What is, you know, or another issue?
Well, and it was an election before. You know, I mean, we were
yeah,
into a totally new election.
We were waiting on the state to decide
right.
what they were going to do, and so now all of this has come and compounded really with multiple major issues involved in our community, and it's just like bang, bang, bang. Like to be fair, if I was the mayor or the county judge, I would just hate to wake up and read the paper every morning.
Right,
because you're just like, I just dealt with something yesterday. And
right,
I have to do
always.
This.
I mean, this is a tough time for our officials here. It really is. But another thing I want to draw attention to, though, is about that special meeting they had last night where they made this vote, or by the time this airs, it may not have been last night, maybe a few days ago.
Yes.
But when they had that vote, the agenda said, I got a lot of people messaging me asking questions because the agenda talked about moving it to federal court and the expense associated with that. And so people were really confused about what that meant. Like they thought that the council was going to meet and go, okay, this is now the federal court's problem. That's totally not an option.
No.
And I'm gonna tell you my opinion. It may not be popular, and it may not even be accurate. It's my interpretation. I'm just telling you. Like I'll be honest. But I read that to be a way to put out to say, hey, we're talking about medical marijuana without bringing in the whole town upset about it.
Yeah.
Because if they put out revote on the medical marijuana permit, 500 people are going to be at City Hall, you know, beating them up over this. Yeah. And I totally can understand that. But this is one of those moves that kind of happens in politics where you say something, it's not untrue. They were totally talking about that issue. Yeah. But it's a way to sort of influence how the public responds to it, because those agendas are always public record. Yes. Anybody can see those. Yes. You can ask for them. And so that's just something I kind of wanted to call attention to, because it's just one of those little games that happens in politics that I think people need to be aware of. Yes. So that's how I take it. I said it may not be accurate. What do you think? I mean,
well, I think really I agree. There's a lot of chess when it comes to how to deal with the public and how to deal with controversial issues. Me, I like transparency. Let's do the thing. Let's get the people informed. I mean, I think, and I've said this for 10 years, like the biggest issue with City Hall, and not like City Hall, this administration, City Hall in general, is that there is not a PR person. There's not someone who is working to get the message out before the problems start. And we rely on local news outlets, and not like local news outlets, let's be fair, like they are reporting news, but they're also trying to sell newspapers or Facebook ads or whatever. And so if you want to control the message, like we saw with Mayor Witt in the recent floodings in Dartmouth, like that was a tremendous effort that he did to get out the message. And whether he was A-OK perfect the whole time, like I can't make that judgment call because I wasn't there making the decisions, and I don't want to do that for our government either, but I know that he was busting his ass every day because he was posting videos on social media.
Right.
And he was talking about what they were doing. And he was taking video to the, spots and saying, here's what's going on. And
meeting people where they're at on Facebook.
And conversing with them. And like, probably wasn't Mayor Jimmy Witt doing the talking the whole time. It might have been somebody that was working for him, commenting and asking while he was handling other things. And that's like that's the PR department's job.
Yeah.
And I feel like we could get ahead of a lot of those kind of problems. But back to the federal court issue.
Hold up, before you do, I want to say, because during all that, I did contact a councilman and say, dude, y'all need a PR person. And so just to be fair to the city and give that side of it, they did say that, that is on the list. It is an important thing they're looking at, but there were, they need a city planner, there were some other positions that were higher priority. So I want to be fair to that we're not just bashing, because they did say that. But I also heard that about 2 years ago when I asked about the same answer. So,
but just now think of all the extra revenue from the medical marijuana dispensary.
Totally can pay for that.
We can afford the PR department. But from the federal issue, from speaking with council members and just other people, like legal people, like the idea behind getting the federal courts involved was really mostly just an easy way to vote no, because right now there is the federal statutes with marijuana make it illegal.
Right.
But the federal government hasn't really, prosecuted or went after some of these state laws.
Yeah, they put some things in place to say they're not going to put resources towards going after medical marijuana.
And so right now the states are basically getting to decide what they want to do. And because of that, like, there is no federal mandate other than what the law is. But if they're not taking charge and taking to court some of these laws that the states are doing, and they're not going to, they've stated they're not going to, then it is literally up to the states to decide. And what's going to happen is, what is it, like 14 or 15 states now? There are 11 that have legalized it, like no recreational, and then there are,
I can't remember.
There's a bunch.
I know Illinois, I think, just happened. So I mean, there's a lot. It's happening regularly.
Let us know how many there are.
Yeah, somebody tell us.
Yeah, you guys know.
Right. So somebody Google that for us.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing that I want to say on this, so we can close it up, is just that important thing you said there about the federal over state over local. This is an issue that's coming up with the casino. It's very confusing to people.
Yes.
And the law is confusing. Like, people, it is. It's, even if you ask a bunch of lawyers, you ask 5 lawyers, you may get 5 different interpretations of the law.
It's extremely frustrating.
It is. It's very stressful because I want things to just be like, well, this is what it says, so it makes sense. So, but in Arkansas, we have pretty clear things with state, local, and federal. And so we do have the local option on alcohol, which is kind of a very specific thing that's carved out.
Yes.
But otherwise, we're pretty much subject to state law. And so when state law passed and said, hey, this is the law of the land now, medical marijuana is legal, that is kind of done. Now, if there had been a federal statute that said we will override that, then that's great, and then that would take precedent. But the federal law right now says we will not put resources towards fighting this. And if you ask any lawyer, the law is only the law when a judge says it is. And so until a judge says we're overturning this in Arkansas, it stands.
And if they overturn in Arkansas, they got to overturn it.
And there's no way that's going to happen. Very unlikely. There's way too much money tied up in this system at this point. So
like Canada paid off their national debt the same day they opened it.
So what can it do for? Russellville can get a PR person out of it. Canada national debt, Russellville PR. Surely we can work this out. So that's all I've got on it. Anything else you want to say?
Well, and just to say, like, in that confusion, like, the state dictates how our city can be organized. Like, not just our city, but all cities. Like, there are only a couple of ways that you can organize a city, and they dictate, like, if an ordinance that we set disagrees with a state law, like, we have to get rid of it, or we go to just like with the medical marijuana, like, they take you to court over it. And
the one thing about that can be really confusing is if nobody's challenged it in court, it may still be on the books.
Right.
There's
we got into trouble when I was in the council over some like the smell.
Right. Like even though people know that that's not valid, it may still be on the book. I mean, that's where it gets
Yes.
super confusing. And some politicians use that to their advantage to keep people at a distance.
Yeah.
That's not us though, so that's why we're here.
Yes, we're all about transparency.
Yes.
So, if you got thoughts about the medical marijuana vote, we're all free and clear to hear them. Please, if you comment, keep it cordial. That's what we're about. We're not going to get into fights and arguments, and when we bring people on here, we're not gonna, argue in a way.
I mean, Nathan and I might argue
hurtful.
sometimes. But...
Yeah. But like, we want to hear and discuss. And if you want to do that with us, we welcome it. So please,
Absolutely.
Keep it
and
mildly clean and respectful.
Yeah, try to. And
yes.
then if there's a topic you want us to talk about or look into more, send it our way.
Yes.
We're glad to look into it.
Yeah, message us here.
And do our best if it's not over our heads.
Yeah. We're also going to try to put everything on YouTube because that's a good thing to do nowadays, we hear. So when we get the YouTube page up, we'll ask you to subscribe. Yeah, I'm sure my 4-year-old could handle it. But all right, that's it for the medical marijuana episode of The Beard and the Sass. And so we want to say thank you and come back and see us on the next episode where we'll talk about something else controversial and hopefully fun.
And we'll try to bring somebody else along so it's not just our boring faces.
Be just us. Yeah. All right. Thanks.